There is a book that you probably haven't heard of that is so useful for dealing with overthinking, and that book is called The Worry Trick. If you have a lot of irrational worries, this book is perfect for you because it teaches you how to deal with these thoughts. Because a lot of people, when they have these irrational fears, these what if thoughts, they try and argue with the thought, but you'll never win an argument with a what if thought. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you have the thought like, oh, what if I die from getting COVID, right? This is like a relevant example from the pandemic. Well, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll argue with that thought. They'll be like, oh, well, I probably won't die from getting COVID because, I'm young and I'm healthy. Well, then your mind will go like, oh, but what if you do? What if you have some condition that you don't know about? Right? Do you see how you would never win this argument? What this book taught me is that I shouldn't argue with the thought. I should humor it. So, if you were a stand-up comedian and someone was a heckler in the crowd, would you sit there and like argue with them? No, that would ruin the whole set, right? You would kind of mock them and then move on with your day. This is the same thing that you do with these annoying irrational thoughts. Like you just kind of agree and exaggerate them. So like this in the same example, what if I die from COVID? Well, to agree and exaggerate it, one thing you could think is like, yeah, what if I die and then I become a ghost and then I haunt everyone who wronged me? Do you see how it becomes like kind of ridiculous? But it ends the argument because basically what the book is arguing is like if it's already an irrational thought, right? What if I die? Because you're probably not going to die. Then why not make it so irrational that it doesn't make any sense at all, that it's almost humorous? Like you humor the thought because you can't control these automatic negative thoughts. You can only control how you respond to them. But when we argue with these thoughts, we try and control them. And that's not how it works because that part of your mind is always going to try and keep you safe. So it's like it's always going to have these responses to what you say, and you can't predict the future, so you'll never win an argument with a what if thought process. So it's not worth the effort to actually like try and win that argument because you can't predict the future. So that's what I learned from this book, The Worry Trick. And once you can deal with these thoughts, then they'll no longer hold you back, and you almost get bored of them. And then you have a lot less of these doubts in your mind, and you can pursue the things that you truly want to do. The second book that helped me take action is called Man's Search for Meaning. And maybe you've heard of this book, but it's really worth the read because it's so intense. It's about a psychologist and his experience during the Holocaust and how he came up with this new form of therapy called logotherapy, where it's based on meaning rather than like happiness. Basically, what I took away from this book, or what it confirmed in my mind, is that you have to live a life that is so meaningful that it's worth the suffering, that it's worth the pain that you go through. So it's like you again, it's like you can't control the suffering, but you can control the way you respond to it. You can control trying to make it as meaningful as possible. And that's what he does throughout this book. And he makes the argument for this new form of therapy at the time called logotherapy. And I think that that's helped me so much more is like just focusing on meaning rather than happiness. And I think the more you do that, the more you can use that in difficult times. You're like, how do I make this less sufferable? How do I make this more meaningful? When you ask yourself these questions, then you don't hold yourself back as much. And I think that not taking action, what it is like we're holding ourselves back. But if you're like, let me just focus on the most meaningful thing, and of course there are going to be difficult parts to it, then it kind of inspires you to take action. The third book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And what this book did, it was like a really good introduction to like the self-help world. I'd read a couple other books before that, but it was really one of the first books that I read that made this argument for like taking responsibility of your own life. And I think what Mark Manson, the author, did really well is he really broke down the difference between responsibility and blame. So like your life circumstance, it may not be your fault. You may be dealing with a bunch of problems that, a bunch of other people created for you. But the thing is, no one's going to fix it but you. So it's your responsibility to fix it. It may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility because fault is based on the past. It's based on the circumstances that led up to this point. But responsibility is based on the future. It's based on who's going to fix this. And I think this is the most valuable mindset that I took away from this book. And I think it's a really good read. The next book is The Magic of Thinking Big. And what this book does, it really makes the case for setting your goals even higher than you think. because then it will motivate you. You know, a lot of people, they set their aspirations too small. And then when things don't go their way, they give up because, it's not getting them the results that they want. But if you have big goals, then you can be committed to them for a longer period of time and they can inspire you to take action. I'll give you an example. Let's say your goal was to get 1 million subscribers on YouTube one day. Well, then maybe you would work for 10 years, like really put in a lot of effort to get there because you have this big goal in your mind. But if your goal was to get 100 subscribers and then you posted a couple of videos and they got 10 views each, then maybe you would give up because you're like, oh, I'm not going to get to the 100 subscribers. It's not worth the effort. But if you have a big goal, then you may think it's worth the effort. And I think this was the main takeaway that I had, but it was definitely a good book to read. And it'll start giving you some ideas of like setting your aspirations higher than they are right now. The last book is 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Now, I often disagree with Jordan Peterson on political points, and I think some of his views can be pretty intense. And especially over the last few years, he's kind of gone more extreme in his views. But back when he wrote this book, like 6, 7 years ago, I think he did a really good job of taking useful philosophies and simplifying them to simple rules to remember. Like for me, sometimes I'll go about my life and then I'll remember a rule and it'll impact my decision, and I think I'll make a better decision because of it. Things like don't compare yourself to who someone else is today, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Tell the truth or at least don't lie. Like these rules have been really useful to me, and if you're struggling, overthinking, not taking action, it could be a beneficial book to read. So those are the 5 books, and I hope that you found some value from this video. And listen, obviously taking action, getting over overthinking, it's not going to be easy, but I think it'll be worth it. Life's not easy, but it's worth it. Take care.